Hey everybody, welcome to the Institute, the place where we learn how to become the leaders that God's called us to be. And obviously, as our work involves people, which therefore involves leadership, it'd be silly for us to do without God's leading and God's growing us. And so this is the place where we do that. So today I would like to talk about conversation styles, particularly conversations that are relating to like performance and helping somebody else grow into who they're supposed to be. And I got this little, descriptions of these conversation styles from this guy by the name of Shane Hipps, and I just really liked how he kind of defined it and kind of developed this picture around it. So remember this idea around hard truth that we've talked about, or not so hard truth, kind truth that we've talked about, and how it is our role as leaders, if we're going to help people grow, we need to speak the truth to them and do it kindly. And so this is going to kind of speak to those kinds of conversations. Now, there's kind of two spectrums that that we're looking at. We're looking at the speed and urgency with which we have these conversations. Like, do we have them now or do we have them later? And then secondly, the other spectrum we're looking at is the way in which we actually talk about these difficult things. Because the truth is these conversations are hard, or we'd be having them more often. But we kind of shy away from these conversations and we hope that people will just get better on their own. And the truth is they don't. We often don't get better on our own either. We need somebody to encourage us, to help us. So, these four different styles. Now, what I'd like for you to do is get out a pen, paper, if you don't have it, because I want you to write these down, because as we talk about them, it'll be helpful to look at them. There's four of them. Number one, actually, pause the video now if not everybody has a pen and paper. Because really, actually, every time you sit down in the Institute, you need to have a pen and paper or a computer or whatever it is you use to capture information. So hit the pause button now and everybody make sure you got it. All right, here's the four things. The first one is talk now and talk straight. Talk now, talk straight. The second one, talk now, but talk around. Talk now and talk around. The third one, talk later and talk straight. Talk later and talk straight. And number four, talk later and talk around. Talk later and talk around. All right, let me go back to the first one. Talk now and talk straight. That's the kind of person who has a sense of urgency. This conversation needs to happen, and I'm going to talk real straight. I'm not going to kind of beat around the bush. I'm not going to, well, sometimes, or I feel like this, or maybe, no, it's like I'm going to talk very straight about this incident or this situation. The second person talks now, like I want to talk about it now, but they talk around it. They don't really kind of get to, this is exactly what we need to talk about. And the third person wants to talk later. I don't want to talk about this now. Either I need to calm down, or I need more information, or I'm fearful to have the conversation, or whatever the reason is, but they don't want to talk about it now. They want to talk about it later. And when they do eventually get to talking about it later, they're going to talk straight about it. And then the fourth person, they want to talk later. They don't want to talk now, and they want to talk around it. They don't want to really kind of get to the point. Now, all of these can be good, as in talking now and talking later and talking straight. And sometimes there's a reason to talk around something. And so all of these can be good, and all of these can be dangerous. It is all about the appropriateness of the conversation, appropriateness of the situation, what's happening with the person, the kind of person they like. There's some definitely factors that need to be taken into account. But what I want us to understand is most people fall to the talk later because they just don't want to have the conversation. And most people fall to the talk around because I don't really want to say what needs to be said. So here's a question I have for you. Which one is your tendency of those four? For me, I tend to talk now and I tend to talk straight. And sometimes I shouldn't be doing that. Sometimes I need to wait and talk later because I need to gather more information, or because I've already made a judgment call of what I think the situation is and I don't really know. Maybe I haven't heard enough. Also, sometimes I need to just, if I have any emotion around something, I should probably let that emotion cool down a bit, then talk about it. So my tendency is talk now and talk straight. So I love you guys discuss amongst yourselves which one you tend to do. And then the second question is, which one do you resist? I tend to, I'm fine with people who want to talk now or talk later based on whatever they feel their need is. But talking around, I resist that. I don't really like that. I think, you know what, if you got something to say to me, say it. Like, I want to hear it. And other people, they need some time to kind of warm up to some of those truths. And you do have to talk around a bit, maybe at first on a situation, in order for them to kind of warm up to it. So, 4 things. I want you to go over them. Make sure you have good understanding what they are. And then ask those 2 questions. Which is your tendency, and which do you tend to push back on and resist?